Hi, everybody. Oh, it's late here on the East Coast, um, in full summer mode. I know some people have already gone back to school. And so Tsipora Wayne here, my happy heart coach, coaching parents toward deepening connections and joy with their kids. I'm so happy to obviously be connecting with you. This week's focus is see the good and say the good. I created a graphic for you on some specific tips on how to do that, starting with say what you see, be concrete, be specific. And if it's something, especially if it's something that you've asked your kids to do, make sure, do your best to say something. We saw in last week's poll that a third of people in our email list received no response at all when they were asked to do something as a child, meaning not a thank you, etc. So, ouch, right? So I'm sure that was like a little painful when you look back on that, like I got nothing. So we want to see the good and say the good with our kids. I want to highlight something that Charlie Harary said from the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation videos on Tisha B'Av. He spoke so beautifully. He shared that reality doesn't shape our beliefs. Please forgive me if there's anything that I say that's off, that's on my perception, not on his. He said reality doesn't shape our beliefs. Our beliefs shape our reality. In other words, what we see, we have a filter. What we see dictates reality. So our perceptions are so powerful. And he talked so beautifully about the gift of sight and seeing. What do we see? Can we see greatness in each other? Can we see greatness in ourselves? And how we can, our belief in our children. I think of Carrie Barcone from the Raising of Men series. How believe in your kids, she would say with such passion and energy. So, and that will build our children up from the inside out. So how do we see the good and say the good? So we look for the point, we look for the nakuda, Charlie Harary was saying. We look for the nakuda of greatness, and that belief in them builds their reality and also creates our reality of how we see our kids. It's so easy to see the negative, and that's based on our perception. Doesn't mean it's true. I love the saying that Hashem doesn't make junk. So in the poll that I just sent out, asking how easy is it to see the good and say the good? And I will say, Baruch Hashem, thank God that close to 40% say thank God with ease. And the reason given for that is they were brought up in a home with positivity. And they've worked on themselves really, really hard to focus on what's good. If you have any questions, by the way, for those who are on, please shoot them, and I'll be happy to address them, talking about see the good and say the good. So, and 60.7%, the majority, obviously, of people feel that it's not so easy over the course of a day to see the good and say the good, or pretty challenging, and somewhere on the fence, like it depends on my child, it depends on sometimes easy, sometimes really challenging. It's easy to see the good, but hard to say the good. So some say it just depends on their state of mind, which are all very normal and within range answers. So just know that you are not alone. Does this resonate with you? That, and again, if you are one of the few who it's easy for you to see the good and say the good, what a gift. What a gift that you are giving and growing and sharing your happy heart and shining your light into your children and seeing and saying the good in them. Because again, Charlie Harary stated that your belief in them creates their reality and your experience of them. It was so beautiful. For the majority of people, at least more than half, 60%, it's a challenge over the course of the day. So I broke it down into a few easy steps, how we can be a reporter, how we can see the good and say the good as if we're reporting. And I want to read something that I happen to go, my two go-tos that I love to jump to each week are Living Each Day by Rabbi Dr. Avram Twersky, Zatzal. And it doesn't always feel natural for us to do this, especially for those of us that didn't grow up with this positivity or receive, again, a third of people in the audience got nothing when they were asked to do something. Their parents didn't say anything, not a thank you, not a good job, not a good girl, good boy. So received nothing. So if we want to be people who are full of hakaras hatov for our children and really grounded as much as we can in the moment to see the good and say the good, how can we do that? So for Tu B'Av today, a joyful day, thank God, and Shabbos Nachamu, it says a person should always study the Torah, even if he lacks the proper motives, because the study of Torah will eventually bring about the proper motives. So this reminds me of Rabbi Silverman, David Silverman here in Atlanta, who I learned when I was becoming observant, fake it till you make it. And it's so true, because when we take on a new habit, does it ever feel natural? No. It feels like we're either speaking a foreign language or acting uncomfortably with something that's a new habit. And our brains fight us because we're breaking the equilibrium. And that's normal. And to expect that, actually. So if we fake it till we make it, till it feels more comfortable, that's the way to success. That's the path. And we do it in baby steps. So when we know what is the right thing to do, we should do it, even if we lack the ideal feeling, intent, or motivation. A little bit more. However, there are things we know to be right, but have resistances to doing for various reasons. We can overcome these resistances by practicing the particular behavior until we're able to do it with the proper feeling. So it might feel very awkward in the beginning. Totally normal. And that's how we gain strength and build the muscle of seeing the good and saying the good. So if you don't feel like smiling and appearing pleasant, do so anyway, like be an actress, which is, again, another way to try on how to see the good and say the good. If you don't feel gratitude for something you should or you want to, express gratitude anyway. So we're building our muscles. If you do not feel like praying, pray anyway. This might not always be easy for people, but it simply says that spirituality, and I would say personal growth, requires practice. You're not being hypocritical when you're practicing something. I also want to go to in Grow Through Torah from Rabbi Pliskin that Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshas Va'eschanan davened to Hashem to enter Eretz Yisrael, enter the land of Israel 515 times. Now, most of us, we might ask once or twice and think about our children asking us, Mommy, 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 can I do this? Can I do this? Right? And at some point they'll stop. So we want to be as persistent as Moshe Rabbeinu, even though the outcome isn't what we wanted, isn't what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted. He desperately wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael. That's what he was fighting for. So, and davening for. So, it says here, the principle we see is that the way to elevation is persistence and even stubbornness. I would call it persistence. I have another thing that I talk about calling flip it. What someone might call stubborn might actually just be persistence and drive and determination. If we can see the good, then we can say it. We first have to see it. So this matter is crucial, and keep trying and trying and trying, practicing and practicing. That's part of my method. I talk about that's just practice, practice, practice. How do we get better at anything? Practice, practice. And the key to accomplishment is persistence. It says most young children are experts at this, as any parent can attest. It's only a question of what you're willing to be persistent about. I have another piece for seeing the good and saying the good. This is something that we really struggle with, if we have difficulty being the actress and faking it till we make it, then everything always can be turned into a tefillah. Always be turned into a tefillah. Whatever challenge you're having in parenting, Hashem, please help me to see the good. That's what Charlie Harary was saying in his beautiful Devar Torah on Tisha B'Av, saying, daven to Hashem to see the good, especially imagine, he'd said, now, between now and Rosh Hashanah, the 7 weeks before, if we can focus, when we say Pokech Ivrim, we're thanking Hashem for opening our eyes so we can see, daven that we see the good. So whatever challenge we're having, we flip it and we turn it into a tefillah. And to help us, Hashem, to please see the good. Help me to say the good. It's not natural for me. I so desperately want to. Please give me the strength over the course of the day when things are challenging to take a moment to build the muscle of seeing what is good and saying the good. And again, it can start as simple as being a reporter, simply saying what you see concretely. I want to give an example. This past week after I shared this, I said to my daughter, I see you pushing in the table. I really, really appreciate that. As simple as that. It didn't even go deeper than that. I see you pushing the chair away. I've asked you to do that. I really appreciate you taking time to do that. That was it. And guess what I got? A big smile. Because she felt seen. That's my interpretation of it. Who doesn't want to be seen? Like, when you do something for a friend or a spouse, we don't do it for that reason, right? We don't do a chesed for someone or something giving because we do it for the response. We're doing it because we want to do it. However, it's nice when someone says something. It's nice to be noticed, even as adults. We all want that. The parent had mentioned it's difficult to do this sometimes when your child doesn't give you the response that you want, that helps build you up too. It's so hard because we need it too. And the goal and the task here is to, with no expectation, as much as humanly possible, even with teenagers, we call it, someone referred to it as like the drive-by method. You can still do this with teenagers. You say what you need to say, and then you walk out of the room. Say what you need to say with a smile, and then walk away. You're still saying it. You're still saying that you are acknowledging that you see them, and I'm paying attention to you. You're important to me, and I'm noticing you and your life and what you're doing and the choices you're making. I received a call, a private message after the post I made today in Facebook, and a child she'd asked, please do the laundry, and then the laundry was on, not the setting it was that she wanted it to be on. However, guess what? It would have been how easy would it have been to say it's not in the right setting? Not that it's a horrible thing necessarily if she did, but in that moment she showed such self-control. Didn't choose to lecture, didn't correct, wasn't disapproving or disappointed in her expression. I'm extrapolating a drop. And she could have said nothing. And she chose to say, thank you for doing the laundry. I really appreciate it. Because she'd asked them to do the laundry, and they did. So just a karsatov appreciation. So these are all lessons in building our muscles, in building our Lev Tov, which is, by the way, why I am my happy heart coach. These are things that I help people with along the way. I coach parents towards seeing the greatness in their kids and in themselves. Thank God I'm blessed to be a natural cheerleader for people. I've been told I'm good for people's ego. So someone else had said, again, it's hard when I don't get it from my child. So reach out to me. I'm here to support you in seeing the good, in saying the good, in easy steps, easy ways that makes a difference, really makes a difference for you and your child. So we have an ayin tov. We want to see the good. And then we're strengthening our Lev Tov, our happy heart, our good heart. So I just want to end with wishing you tefillah for Tu B'Av, for a day of joy, for a year of nechama, of comfort, of simcha, of bracha, of all that is good, and using our words to build, and God forbid, not to destroy, but to build each other up, to build ourselves up, to be the best we can be, to use our neshamas in that way, in our choice, to see the good and say the good in simple, simple ways with our children, and it makes a world of difference for them. So I welcome you to connect with me if you want to talk more about this, if you want to find out how to do this with maybe a challenging child, or you're just struggling to see it, or life is chaotic and hectic and you're really having a hard time seeing it. Reach out to me, please. Have a connection call with me. I'm here to support you. And here is to growing and sharing your happy heart. And thank you for joining. I'm happy you're here. And Zipporah Wayne signing out, my happy heart coach. Have a good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and may Tu B'Av be filled with joy and the year going forward.